Okay, so now that we have understood the basics of how this structured finance assets were created and the importance of the role of correlation, let's go back to the problem that the credit rating agencies were trying to solve. So the origin of the credit ratings were that you need to figure out a way of measuring the ability of these issuers or entities to meet their future commitments, right? Whatever the amount of payments or the insurance, or the interest or the principal amounts that you are committed to pay, are you able to repay them or not, right? And basically, the rating would be either based on what is the probability of default, or once the default happens, what's the amount of expected economic loss, right? So that would be given by the product of the likelihood of observing a default multiplied by the severity of the loss that happens conditional on default, right? So intuitively, what you want to think is you want to kind of figure out for each asset that you have, what's the basically the measure of the asset's expected cash flow, right? That's the problem that we were interested in. Now, there's some kind of like natural meaning to the grades that were assigned. So remember that these rating agencies had started out by evaluating corporate bonds, and basically in that case, securities that were rated triple B or above were known as investment grade and were thought to represent low to moderate level of risk when it comes to default, whereas those that were rated BB plus and below were referred to as speculative grade and were considered to be close to default, right? So these are just some historical numbers. So in the investment grade bonds, you had this following category where you had AAA, AA plus, AA minus, A plus, A minus, triple B plus, triple B, and triple B minus. Okay, so all these were the investment grade bonds, and you can see that you can kind of like think about what would each of them have in terms of corresponding default probabilities. So they can be stated either in terms of 10-year default probabilities or annualized default rates. So this, I think, just to simplify things, let's look at the annualized default rate. So if you had an annualized default rate of 0.02%, in that case, your bond would have been rated AAA, so 0.02% or less than that. Whereas if that number went up to 0.06%, then this will be AA plus. And as the number is increasing, then the grades is kind of like going down, right? And once this number crosses 1%, you had like a BB plus, which was corresponding to 1.07%. And you can see that again, as the numbers are going up, this is corresponding to higher and higher chances of default, right? So you can kind of like map the default rate into a particular grade and so on, right? But these were again on the basis of the historical default experience of bonds that were rated. And these were basically mostly corporate bonds and to some extent, maybe government bonds, right? Okay, so when you had this single name rating business where you were trying to just kind of think about bonds that were kind of like put out by a company, there you did not really need to take into account that what's the joint probability of default of different kind of like assets that they were trying to evaluate, right? So the rating agencies did not really need to consider about, what's the extent to which defaults might be correlated across the different things that they were rating, right? However, as we have discussed, when it comes to the structured finance securities, it's very important to figure out what's the correlation of default across different securities, right? So you needed to answer this question. And if you have got two assets, then you just need to figure out what's the correlation of underlying default. But if you have got more complicated objects, then the underlying joint probability distribution becomes more and more complex to kind of specify, right? And how much kind of like riskiness of these underlying assets that you are going to think, this kind of like underlying correlation between these different underlying securities is going to play a very important role, right? And if you kind of like have more and more of this securitization, which is like the CDO squared and all these things that we talked about, these kind of like underlying complications become more and more important. And so any mistake you make about, let's say, trying to think about what is the probability of default correlation, that is going to translate into higher and higher mistakes in terms of the grade that you are assigning to these more complicated objects, right? So more rounds of structuring that you have, smaller and smaller errors are going to lead to larger and larger mistakes. when it comes to assigning grades. So let's just see as an example of how such a thing actually works out in terms of putting some numbers. And here, basically, a simulation exercise was done. So let's just see what were the underlying things in the simulation. So people were looking at payoffs to 40 CDO pools, right? And this was basically done by looking at simulations. Each of these 40 pools were consisting of 100 bonds with a 5-year default probability of 5%. And if the bonds were defaulting, then there was only a recovery of 50%. So this is a bit different from the examples that we have been discussing. So in our examples, you have a basically recovery rate of 0, right? If there was a default. So we were basically looking at if you are not defaulting, you pay 1. If you are defaulting, you pay 0. Or if you are not defaulting, you pay 100. If you are defaulting, you pay 0. So in contrast to that, here we are going to be looking at that if you default, then you pay out only 50%, right? You do not pay 0%. But the number of bonds is much higher. And so therefore, you cannot just do pen and paper calculations. You have to rely on simulations, right? Now, if this was the underlying bond structure where you had got a bond with a 5-year default probability of 5% and a recovery rate of 50%, you can kind of like back it out, and one can show that this would have basically resulted in a kind of like a investment grade rating of uh, BB plus, right? So remember, BB plus is a speculative grade bond, but it's like the highest speculative grade bond, right? So not particularly safe kind of like assets, right? Uh, as a baseline scenario, suppose that the pairwise bond default correlation is set at 0.20 within each collateral pool. And if you are thinking about default of bonds belonging to different collateral pools, let's continue to assume that these are uncorrelated. Okay. So in this way, after this, now that we have kind of like set up the correlation, we can think about constructing the capital structure and assigning different tranches in the way we have talked about. So in the simulation exercise, there were 3 tranches that were constructed. So you have the junior tranche, which is the first to absorb losses from the underlying collateral pool and will do so until the portfolio loss hits 6%, at which point the junior tranche becomes worthless. So there's no money that's going to go to the junior tranche if the portfolio loss is more than 6%. Then you have got a second layer, which is the mezzanine tranche. So think of this as the middle claims, which is going to start absorbing losses once the portfolio loss exceeds 6% and will continue to do so until the portfolio loss reaches 12%. Anything more than 12%, then this tranche is also going to become worthless. And finally, you have got the senior tranche, which is going to start getting hit only if you have got portfolio losses exceeding 12%. Okay. So this was the basic CDO that was kind of created. But again, just as we had discussed before, you could have created CDO squared. And in this simulation, it was created by combining 2 different mezzanine tranches from these different CDO obligations that you had, right? And after that, basically, you can do simulations. And as a result of looking at the simulation results, you can start assigning ratings to these different tranches, right? So you would do that, for example, by comparing the likelihood of losses to each tranche's capital with the underlying parameters that we had discussed, right? So if you kind of like do that, then the middle layer would have actually ended up getting a rating of BBB minus, which is still better than the. So remember, these were the underlying securities. The middle tranche would get a rating of BBB minus under those assumptions that we have made, and the higher, the senior tranche would end up actually getting a rating of AAA. Okay. And if you're looking at the CDO square, in that case, even the mezzanine branches could have been combined to have got a rating of AAA, right? So these are just, again, some numbers. You have got this as the CDO, where basically the junior tranche has a very high default probability. And in that case, we are not even going to be kind of like rating them because of such high probability. And the middle tranche is going to have a probability of 2.07%. That would correspond to a rating of BBB minus. And the senior one is going to have a probability which is very low. And that's going to have a rating of AAA, right? And the CDO square that was created, that in that case, the mezzanine layer also kind of like has a rating of like AAA, right? Because of the reasons that we talked about. Okay. Now, this is the crucial point. So these estimates that we have come up of this, how secure or how safe are these assets, they clearly depend on whether the default correlations have been estimated correctly, right? So what you can do as a result of this simulation exercise is you can play around with those numbers. So instead of assuming what we had assumed in the baseline, which was this 0.20, you can start varying that, and you can see what's going to be the effect on this table that we have, like what would be the ratings as a result of changes in this underlying correlation, right? And so this is the exercise that you want to do in the simulation. You want to basically kind of like change the underlying pairwise correlation default. You still keep the correlation on default for bonds belonging to different CDOs as 0, and then you see what is the effect of that, right? So suppose you normalize the payoff by 1 for the baseline case that we have discussed. And now suppose you increase the default correlation. So you can see that as a result of that, what's going to happen is that both the senior and the mezzanine tranches are going to have a lower expected payoff, whereas the junior tranches increase in terms of expected payoff. You could have also played around by fixing the default pairwise correlation, but changing the default probability. And you can see that here, all of the expected payoffs kind of like go down, right? But by different levels. And this is the effect basically. So remember, this was the baseline scenario where the probability of default was 5% and the pairwise correlation was 20%. And this is what we had found. Now, suppose you change the default correlation to 40%, 60%, 80%, and you can see that that's going to lead to the senior kind of like the senior tranche having a lower grading, right? So AAA becomes A plus, it becomes double B plus when it's 60%. And if it's 80%, then it goes down to double B, right? Similarly, you can see that there are kind of like effect on the mezzanine camp as well, right? And of course, these effects are much more if you are making a mistake in terms of default probability. So this is what you see. And interestingly, you can see that these effects are much more deeper when you are like mixing two different CDOs. So CDO square, for example, the AAA asset, which was the mezzanine one, became B plus, then C, and so on, right? So you can see that any small mistake that you are kind of like making in this default correlation, that is going to have a major impact on the grading that you should have assigned to the different kind of like CDO and CDO squares, right? Okay, so how does this all kind of like tie into what was actually happening, right? This is so far conceptual, right? To what was happening in this market in the 2000s, right? So actually, the underlying securities that you had in the CDO obligations were basically this mortgage-backed securities that we had mentioned, right? And subprime basically means that you were kind of like the mortgages were created by extending loans to kind of like riskier customers, right? And so basically, when you kind of like combined this mortgage-backed securities to create more securities, these were effectively basically CDO squares, because even the mortgage-backed securities were actually created by kind of bunching in different claims from different places, right? And so we already see that any mistake that you are kind of like making is going to be magnified when you are looking at the CDO square level. Now, why were there kind of like more likelihood of making mistakes? So as we discussed, the historical experience on the basis of which these rating agencies were making this kind of assessment of this correlation were basically single rated corporate bonds, right? But from there, they didn't have that much experience in thinking about in terms of, okay, what's the probability of default of this new securities that were being created, and what's the likelihood that these defaults are correlated, right? So there were likely to be more and more mistakes in terms of default correlations, default probabilities, and how much money will be recovered whenever you have got kind of like these bonds defaulting, right? So when you have got these errors which were kind of like magnified by this more and more layers of resecuritization, that actually helps to explain the losses that will be there, right? So this is actually a classic example of a product which was kind of considered to solve a lot of problems, create safer assets from underlying risky assets. But as experience showed that, kind of like more conceptual thinking based on, probabilistic stochastic modeling was required. in order to kind of like correctly assess. And it was kind of like only understood in hindsight that, there were so many kind of like issues that were there in this market only after so much losses were created, right? So just to give you some references based on which our first week's discussion was created. So the first part of this week's lecture was based on this chapter 11 of this reference. So this is available online. You can click on this link and go there. The discussion of the financial crisis of 2007-8 was based on this textbook by Olivier Blanchard. It's called Macroeconomics. And finally, the last part involving structured finance, it's actually based on this paper, which is again available online for free, called The Economics of Structured Finance. It's in a journal called Journal of Economic Perspectives, which has like very nice articles on various economic and financial issues, which you can kind of like read with if you have like a basic understanding of economics and finance, which hopefully you will get as a result of taking this course.